Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Crossroads. I am your host, Rashida Green, and this is the show for and about environmental justice and those who fight the fight, whose skin as melanated as the days are long. Knowledge is power, and we are breaking down stereotypes one episode at a time. I am super pumped. I'm pumped because I have an amazing person here with me today, a doctorate, a farmer, a writer. I have Christina Hilton here with me today, the creator of Iron Lion Farms. Hello.
Hello. It's so nice to see you.
It is so great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my goodness.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we have so many things to talk about, but before we get there, we're going to give some flowers. This is the part in the show where we honor someone either in our lives or, maybe not any longer, that has made an impact. Do you want to go first?
Absolutely. Thank you. I definitely want to give thanks, to my grandmother, Rosalie, who really inspired me, first and foremost. And, followed right behind her. There are lots of people to give thanks, but I'd also love to give thanks and honor to Harriet Tubman as well.
Yes, agreed. I am going to I'm giving flowers to Ebrima Ba. He's actually he was the first guest I ever had on my show. And he and I actually had a great conversation about a couple of documentaries that he created and produced himself called Food, Clothing, and Shelter about land management, about land use and farming and getting folks back in touch with the earth. So I'm going to give some flowers to him.
Yes.
Gonna do that. So we have a lot to talk about. Can you please talk to us about Iron Lion Farms, the origin story, and just a taste of some of the amazing things that you guys are doing?
Oh, give thanks for the word sound. Yeah, well, Iron Lion Farm is a family farm. Its name is inspired by iron as fortifying the body. The blood is an important metal in the earth, right? Especially for women's bodies, but for everyone. It really gives us that strength. And of course, lion, is that very patient, but very courageous, and a very royal animal. And of course, is the Iron Lion in Zion. So that's how it kind of gets its name. But it's a family farm. We've always been into agriculture. My partner and I, Dexter Hilton, and our children. So, it just kind of came about organically. We were able to purchase some land. And that's a whole nother story in itself, how that came about. But we were able to purchase some land, 20 acres, and go ahead and start. And we farm on approximately 2.75 acres of land. We only have one field in production. The other ones are in cover crop right now, because we're both working too, as well, other jobs, and also the nonprofit.
Oh my goodness.
What's going on?
Yeah. So what is one thing that you wish people knew about land management? What is just, as you've been, as you have learned to manage this land and even just the process of purchasing land, what is just some things that you wish the average folks knew about it?
Yeah, I guess I want to answer that in two parts. One is that land management is really an intergenerational venture. And land is power, right? And I don't mean power in the sense of colonial power, but I mean power in the sense of freedom. And freedom gives you that kind of ability to be self-determined. And to me, that's power. So land is super important. And, I guess I would say to folks who have land and, are absent from their land, maybe they moved away or they've inherited land, that there are multiple ways that you can keep your land and use your land to create income, even through sustainable forestry practices where you don't have to be fully present.
Mm-hmm.
I would say to hold on to the land, because in 1910, Black people collectively in this country owned approximately 15 million acres of land, and really that's not that much considering, Ted Turner himself owns like 5 million acres of land in the country. Um, I'm just saying,
Did not know that.
but
Mm-hmm.
today it's arguable if we own even 5 million collectively, right? And so without land, we don't have the ability to create any kind of equity. We don't have the ability to really be self-determined. We can't build our institutions. There's not, it's kind of, landless people is a path to second-class citizenship.
Mm.
And so I think if I had any advice would be to hold on to the land that you have, work out the family issues if it's an heir property, um, and know that when we have land, land needs to be planned for generations to come, right? We have to look back to collect that information of our ancestors, our parents, our foreparents, and be able to be innovative for our future generations, not just the next generation, but for our great grandchildren and our great 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 grandchildren.
Right. And, when you were also talking about, land management, we also have to bring into the fact that, historically, Black farmers have had their land taken away from them.
Yes. Yeah.
What is from your perspective, first, let me back up. Aside from you, does anyone else in your family or your immediate family farm?
Aside from my, my partner, my husband, and my kids with me, no.
Mhm.
In my immediate family farms. My mother was definitely a gardener, and we grew up gardening. My grandmother, who has transitioned and, guides me as an ancestor, was definitely a farmer, a small farmer. But nevertheless, she definitely had vegetables and was able to sell some as well. But no, nobody else in my immediate family does.
And the reason that I asked that question is, like you said, this is something that is farming was intended and has been historically intergenerational. It is what
Right.
the purpose of having larger families was, to work the soil, and to help the family to feed and sustain themselves. And so
Right.
now that we have since moved away from that
Mm-hmm.
in pretty much every single way, well,
Mm-hmm.
what are some, for you, what are some practices that you've incorporated, that
Mm-hmm.
either like ancestral ones that you've
Mm-hmm.
incorporated that you're now teaching to your children?
Yes. So definitely what we do is regenerative agriculture, and we kind of define that as ways of our foreparents, right? So people spend a lot of money to go to classes and learn in university about this organic farming, but that's something that I know that my mother, my grandmother certainly was doing. They didn't know the term organic.
Right.
Course, like all of the leaves were piled up. For my grandmother who had a wood burning stove, like even the ash, and that's something that I do as well, was used, as a potassium rich, additive to your soil. So things like that. And also, one thing I remember my grandmother doing is she always collected seeds,
Mm.
like plants went to seed. That was purposeful. There were some plants that were used for that purpose, particularly herbs or things like that. Those went to seed and those seeds were collected. And then also cuttings. And she used to share, especially flowers. She used to share and always be like, oh, honey, go put that in some water and we'll root it. And, that's definitely something that I carry on. And I think my children enjoy doing too. They love to cut flowers and put them in water and then, oh, it's rooted. And they get it, so yeah, that's definitely something we do.
And when you talked earlier about a couple of your lots are in cover cropping, and
Yes.
I really want to pull the car over to talk about that because that I'm sure you're well aware of the pressure that a lot of folks and farmers feel to utilize pesticides to maintain their crops and the damage that is doing, obviously, to our planet. And cover cropping, first, before I don't want to spoil it, but can you break down what cover cropping is and why it's important?
Yeah, well, my understanding with cover cropping really comes from like the work of, Dr. Carver. So this idea with how cotton was pulling so much nitrogen out of the soil, and nitrogen is such an important part of soil development and plant development, right? For photosynthesis to occur and things like that, and for plants to get its food. And so that cotton was just pulling all of that out and not returning it. And some plants will absorb it, but also return it back to the soil. And cotton is not one of them. It's just a taker, right?
Ironic.
Right? It's very ironic, right? So it just takes and takes and takes. So cover cropping, helps to regenerate the soil. It adds natural amendments back to the soil. So things such as peanuts are going to add back nitrogen because it's a legume. So leguminous, or any kind of bean plant too, is also a leguminous plant that's going to add back nitrogen and nutrients, particularly macronutrients, that nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, back into the soil, right? So does sweet potatoes, right? Lots of different cover crops that you can use that are also cash crops, so peanuts and sweet potatoes happen to be two of those. But then there are other, there's a ton of, and it depends on what you want the cover crop for. Some people want it to, kind of break up some of the compaction of the soil if it hasn't been farmed in a really long time. So you could do that as well. Yeah.
And going back to Iron Line Farms, you have something very special going on that you're in the midst of right now. Could you please talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yes, our camps that we've been having. Yes. So, Iron Line Farm is designed to not just produce, produce or fresh vegetables. We do have some animals as well. We have some chicken here and some rabbits, but our main part is education, right? So we offer a lot of educational services in the spirit of bringing people back to the land and disconnecting and reconnecting, right? So disconnecting from the everyday busyness that disconnects us, and coming back and taking off your shoes and grounding yourself and reconnecting with yourself, with nature, and one to another. And so we've had some really nice camps. We have a program called Camp and Learn, where people come and they camp overnight. And they may come with a group, a youth group, may just be family, something like that. And we host various workshops. So we also have bees here as well. Awesome. Our insects. So yes, we're beekeepers as well. And so we'll do like beekeeping workshops. We might do income generation workshops, like, what you can do with byproducts. Because a lot of people get focused on the honey. And honey is great, but it is the cheapest of the byproducts, right? So there's things like wax production that you can do that make a higher income for you. So not the cheapest, but the probably the least in terms of the income generation is what I mean.
Okay.
And so we do various workshops. So it's called Camp and Learn. And then, of course, we also do activities with folks as well, outdoor activities. It might be archery, it might be some other little things, some hiking, going down 2 creeks on the land, so it's really nice. We've also we just finished a writing workshop. So it's
That's
called Writing
mostly
into
what I'm
the
excited
Wild.
about. Yes. Okay.
Yes, and the Writing into the Wild. This is our second year hosting that one, and so this year our focus of Writing into the Wild was blossoming in your creativity using the 4 elements. So we did some
I love it.
some sensory activities, and as well as some guided meditations. And then we end the evening with a big bonfire, and we do some storytelling and some activities around fire as a cleansing element. So the inner and outer elements, how do we use those to, blossom in our creativity? So that was this year's. It was great fun. It was beautiful. People came up with beautiful stories. I'm so grateful. Yeah.
Are you going to post them on like your website or anywhere so that people can read it or?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we might be able to post some of them. I
Okay.
think it was personal,
Oh,
for some folks, it was things that they're working on or working towards in their short stories and creativity. And some people really just came out just to reground themselves and reconnect with nature. We have a saying here at Iron Line Farm that, whenever we connect with nature, we're connecting with ourselves. When we ourselves, we're connecting with nature, because in the end we are the earth. When we think about what makes up the earth, we talk about minerals and metals. That's everything that's in our body. If you name something like calcium, potassium, well, all of those are really important for our life systems, right? We are the air. Without air, without the breath of life, there's only death. There is no life.
yep.
As the earth is approximately 75% water, so is our bodies, right? Depending on our ages. So, and then there's fire. There's an internal fire and an external fire, right? And so internal, our fire, we're burning when we're exercising, when we're moving, right? That blood is flowing, it's cleansing, it's cleaning out your blood. And it's the same thing with fire, right? When there's fire on the land, as long as it's not a wild fire, but fire is used to, create new growth, right? And so when we think about that, we are the elements of earth. We are earth. So when we heal the land, we heal ourselves. When we heal ourselves, we're healing the land, because we're cultivating a reflection of the earth to ourselves. So, yeah.
That's really so. What do you see like, for the future? Do you want to expand the farm or are you just looking to
Yeah.
maintain?
Well, one of the great things is we are actually starting an apprenticeship program, or restarting an apprenticeship program.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we have our first group coming out, our first family that's going to come out and stay with us. They'll be staying three days a week, in a really nice camper. So that's really nice. So I definitely want to see expand that way. I also want to be able to bridge that gap between urban and rural, that urban and rural divide. I really love urban agriculture, but I also really love and understand rural agriculture and its different aspects of it. So I want to be able to bridge those kind of gaps. And then eventually we'll be taking folks to our land space in Jamaica as well, to really look at health and wellness around land and land-based issues that are reflected in terms of colonialism, the breaking that down, and what those effects have been, and also the empowerment and how people are pushing back collectively, both here in the South as well as in the Caribbean. And we'll particularly be working in Jamaica. And then we'd like to get back to the motherland as well, look at these similar issues. So yes, so that's how we'd like to expand it.
And, I think we've more than come to the crossroads, which is the point in the show where we kind of bring everything kind of all together. And because we are in the summer, I don't know about you, but I've started to change my perspective about how, and start to think a little bit more in terms of the older strategies that we used to utilize in our preparation for winter. Like this was the
Right.
time where we ate well
Right.
But we also stored in preparation for the future, in
Yes.
preparation for
Yes.
winter.
Yeah.
What I find to be is kind of the separation, or the, when you're speaking about the gap between urban and rural agriculture, I would also say that it's just the culture as well is different too,
Yeah.
that folks
Yes.
don't understand the relationship that we should be having with the earth, and how
Right.
everything in the built environment depends on the natural.
Yes.
So from your perspective, kind of just focusing on farming and health and wellness, when we
Mhm.
think about the summer, what are some things that we should be doing to feed ourselves, but also to prepare?
Mhm. Yeah. So one thing I love about the summer is it's full of fruit, right? So summertime fruits have what? All of our vitamins, right? And those vitamins, especially that vitamin C, really helps with freeing free radicals in the body. It really helps to boost the immune system. Summertime is the end of the herbs usually. Herbs is the medicine, right? So we're drinking those teas, we're fortifying our body, we're getting all the iron that we need, all the potassium, all the magnesium, all the calcium, all the nutrients that we need to really fortify our bodies for the winter. And then, of course, there is the storing of the food, as you talked about, right? So in the fall time, when you start pulling out some of your sweet potatoes and whatnot, you can put them, you can do things. One thing that an elder once explained to me is that they used to dig a hole and just stack it with some hay, and then put their sweet potatoes in there and cover it up with hay, and nothing would even trouble them.
Hmm.
They stored it. So yes, when you're living close with nature, you're definitely living by the seasons. And therefore we should be fortifying our bodies like the seasons as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So winter time, we store everything. It's time for new growth, right? It's time to go within, it's time to heal, it's time to get ready for the spring, for new growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, I think that, filling up on that vitamin C, filling up on the immune system, those fruits, all of those seeded plants, that's what we're doing. We're planting seeds for
Mm-hmm.
spring to come, for new growth in our life. Yeah.
I love that. And so,
Yes.
is there anything, like, first, are there any activities or upcoming activities, or even ways to that folks can support you? Are there any endeavors that you're looking for? Just a lot of kind of like, I guess, community support to have, or anything along those lines? Because
Yes.
we're kind of closing out. So I want to make sure you
Love
have an
that.
opportunity to, like, nah, all the amazing things that you guys
Give
are
thanks.
doing.
Give thanks. Yes. Well, definitely. We always love volunteer support. We warmly welcome that. We have volunteer days. You can check us out on at Iron Lion Farm on Instagram. I also am a full-time educator as well and running a nonprofit. So, I can only do so much on the farm too. So we
Yeah.
do. We are reliant on volunteers coming out to support us. But we also have some activities, and I think it's important that we get together around land. I mean, times are serious. They always have been serious. They're more and more serious. It's very disheartening to me to see where we are in 2021, how far away from our legacy builders of the Reconstruction period we have come.
Mm.
Um, Gone, and so I think like coming together around land and really thinking collectively in togetherness and healing ourselves through nature um, is really important. So I like to say we're reflections of one another. And so I think one way of supporting us is supporting yourself by connecting and coming out and connecting, because I am, because we are, right?
Mm.
And so we do have some activities coming up. We have a fall festival that we'll do in October. We have a festival that we're going to do in November. And then we definitely will rest as well
Mhm.
in those months and be ready for spring. So I would love anyone to check us out. We'll post volunteer days. If you're interested in being an apprentice, you can definitely, direct message me, send me an email. All of that information is on at Iron Lion Farm on Instagram.
Christina, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here. I
Give
really, really,
thanks.
really appreciate it. And I did not mean to say agreed instead of Ashe. I was just blanking and I was like, agreed.
Yes. Well, give thanks for the word sound anyway.
Yes, thank you so much. And this has been
Thank
really
you.
amazing. And I would love to have you back on the show. And just to let you know, I don't know if you're already involved, but the Black Sustainability Network and Summit.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm the person that runs that actually is the one who introduced me to Ebrima, and she does a summit in Ghana. They've been trying to do it every year. So if you don't, I will. Yep. Yeah.
Yes. With Sister Turner there.
Yes, Marina. I love her.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yes.
She is beautiful. She's beautiful. I've been trying to do a little bit more with them, but yes, definitely. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
I love it. I've been following you for a while, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That I can't even, I'm fangirling. I'm like actually fangirling. Like as I found more things, like a writing conference, a PhD in awesomeness. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like so excited.
Give thanks. And I hope you'll come and visit us on the farm as well.
Oh yeah. I will definitely make an effort to come on down to that farm because I need to learn.
Give thanks.
I can do some basic stuff, but I'm not like, I can keep the plants alive.
Yes, you can. That's what I tell everyone. Look, it's already in us. It's just within us. It's just to and recall it and get with it because, we already know it.
That's very true. All right. The kids are loose. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for joining us. And we will see you again at the crossroads.
All right. Blessed love.